In the headlines, President Tinubu emerges ECOWAS chairman, urges West African leaders to resist military takeovers. Troops of Operation Safe Haven recover locally made AK-47 rifles, ammunitions in troubled communities of Mangu local government area in Plateau State. First batch of Lagos pilgrims depart Mecca for Nigeria. And on the foreign scene, hundreds of migrants missing at sea near Spain's Canary Islands. Hello there, good afternoon and welcome to Trust News Update. I'm Abdullahi Ahmed. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has emerged the chairman of the Authority of Heads of State and Government of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS. He took over on Sunday from President of Guinea-Bissau, Umaru Sissoco Embalo, at the end of the 63rd Ordinary Session of the Authority of Heads of State and Government in Guinea-Bissau. 15 West African leaders endorsed the Nigerian president to lead the sub-regional body for the next 1 year. Kehinde Amodu reports.
Despite it being his first summit as Nigerian leader, the unanimous endorsement by West African leaders clearly demonstrates the trust and confidence reposed in President Tinubu, and he has pledged that under his leadership, frameworks will be harmonized to actualize the dreams of ECOWAS.
We must be firm on democracy. Democracy being the best form of government. We sat here, we made some sacrifices for it.
But he is warning that the threat to peace in the sub-region, occasioned by an emerging pattern of military takeover and an alarming rise in terrorism, must be urgently addressed.
We should make a pledge here that in furtherance of our region's economic recovery and growth, we will commit to democracy and promote democracy and rule of law. I am with you.
After he had received handover documents from the outgoing chairman, who is Guinea-Bissau's president, the Nigerian leader stressed that he was fully committed to deepening democracy and good governance in the region, and that he would engage with countries in transition to ensure their quick return to democratic rule.
We will not allow coup after coup West African separation. We will take this up seriously.
Before the handover, the former ECOWAS chairman and president of Guinea-Bissau had appreciated his fellow leaders for sustaining the vision of the organization despite the global economic headwinds and trouble spots within the region. President Embalo identified Mali, Burkina Faso, and the Republic of Guinea as countries where the constitutional order had been distorted. On the other hand, Nigeria and Sierra Leone had sustained constitutional order through democratic processes with recent successful elections in their countries. Tracking the president at the ECOWAS summit in Guinea-Bissau, Kehinde Amodu, Trust TV News.
Now, Operation Safe Haven, maintaining peace in Plateau State, says it has recovered 5 locally made AK-47 rifles during an operation in the troubled communities of Mangu local government areas of the state. Media Information Officer of the command, Captain Oya James, who disclosed this on Sunday, also says ammunitions were equally recovered during the operation. Trust TV had on Sunday reported how 9 persons were reportedly killed in Sabongari community, a development that informed the GOC to relocate to Mangu local government area. According to the spokesperson of the operation, the General Officer commanding Division 3 of the Nigerian Army, Major General Abdusalami Abubakar, who doubles as the commander of Operation Safe Haven, had restored normalcy to Sabongari following the recent attack in the area. Now, still talking security, the Islamic State of the West African province, ISWAP, has threatened all farmers, fishermen and herders in Marte local government area of Borno State, where the insurgents still maintain presence. Daily Trust reports that ISWAP vowed to eliminate anyone found in some of the communities in the local government. The announcement was made after the terrorist group suffered strings of heavy losses from relentless airstrikes coordinated by the Nigerian military in some identified hideouts in Marte. The strikes led to the elimination of top commanders of ISWAP, scores of foot soldiers, destruction of their logistics, factory and vehicles. It also denied the terrorists sanctuary and freedom of action by forcing them to relocate from their camps. Now in Kogi State, the state government has condemned the vandalism of the Social Democratic Party campaign office in Lokoja, the state capital, on Sunday. This was contained in a statement signed by the State Commissioner of Information and Communications, Kingsley Fanwo, in Lokoja on Monday. In the statement, the government described the incident as barbaric, undemocratic and unacceptable to the people and government of Kogi State. The government therefore warned criminals and hoodlums to stay clear of the Kogi governorship poll as the state is prepared to deal with criminals decisively. Now, in today's Nigeria, there's literally every service available for hire to achieve a predetermined objective. From professional mourners to protesters for hire, the end services could be endless. In this report, the Trust TV's Shafiu Suleiman takes a look at this social phenomenon where youths are hired by politicians to amplify a political, economic or social agenda. His report.
To canvass a push for the realization of certain objective, political or otherwise, vested interests find these categories of youth handy. The prospect for reward after protest is attractive. With as low as 500,000 naira, these youths can be mobilized to streets to either protest or amplify certain objective, even if it means nothing to them.
Those guys, they don't believe in anything, and therefore they can protest on behalf of anybody just for the fee, which is usually negotiated and paid either upfront or through mobilization. So it's a phenomenon. To some people, it is business.
They will come, they will ask someone to go and mobilize the youth. They will mobilize the youth. The youth will go without knowing what they are doing. Sometimes they are illiterate, but some of them are even literate. They will always write something on the placard and start shouting, yelling, this, that, of which they don't even know what they are doing.
Often, they organize media conferences with the sole objective of pushing the narratives of their sponsors with a view to convincing gullible audience into believing their predetermined propaganda.
Usually these politicians or NGOs prepare the text for those protesters to read. And since I tell you that some of them are semi-literate or even fairly literate, and it all depends on what is the contract. The contract given to them may be simply carrying placards.
Whenever someone is being charged of corruption, maybe the person has done a diabolical machination against the state, and he went and hired a crowd, a youth, to be standing for him, saying this, saying that. Sometimes they were saying it's ours, which is attached to African politics.
These protesters for hire are often mobilized by people in authority to woo the citizens to accept certain policies or to counter antagonists pushing for their own agenda.
Almost on daily or at least weekly basis, you see these chaps being mobilized and organized by all sort of individuals and groups to carry out protests.
And if you want to pay, you can not only pay for the protesters, you have to pay for the security, you have to pay, in short, sometimes even passersby are being paid. Nobody should interfere. Whatever you see, just turn your face.
Public affairs commentators believe addressing youth unemployment, arresting and prosecuting sponsors of violent political demonstrations, in addition to demanding leadership accountability, could reduce the impact of manipulation of protests. Shafiu Suleiman, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Now, the Niger State Governor Muhammad Umar Bago has directed the dissolution of all statutory commissions, boards and parastatals and the termination of all political appointees appointed before May 29, 2023. A statement issued by the Secretary to the State Government, Abubakar Usman, disclosed that Governor Umar Bago ordered the dissolution and termination of appointments with immediate effect. Usman explained that the commissions, boards and parastatals that are tenured or not tenured are also affected by the dissolution directive and urges concerned officials to comply immediately. While recognizing their positive contributions to the development of the state, the affairs of their office, the SSG directed those affected by the dissolution to hand over all government properties, including official vehicles in their possession, to the most senior director in their respective organizations. Lowell Tanko, the information officer in the SSG's office who signed the statement, says the governor wishes members of the dissolved commissions, boards, parastatals and political appointees success in their future endeavors. Now, the Academic Staff Union of Polytechnics in the Federal Polytechnic Ekowe in Bayelsa State has directed its members to embark on an immediate strike action from Monday, July 10th, over non-implementation of promotion arrears, unpaid academic allowances and poor working conditions. In a communique signed by the Chairman, Agada Franklin, and General Secretary Justin Ikirigo, made available to newsmen in Yenagoa, the Bayelsa State capital, the union says the decision to commence the strike action was taken at an emergency Congress meeting over some issues that are detrimental to the members of the union. The union frowned at the non-implementation of accumulated promotion arrears for the years 2018, 2019, 2020, 21, 22, and the non-implementation of annual step increment and its arrears for January 2023 to date. Other demands by the striking lecturers include the non-implementation of the agreed 2% academic allowance, refusal to pay interest, infrastructural decay in the campuses, especially classrooms, desks and teaching aids. They accuse the management of running the institution from the liaison office after a decade of its establishment while abandoning the permanent campus in a Ekowe community, resulting in poor security at the campus, unkept working environment and poor power supply that has crippled academic activities. The communique noted that the strike is inevitable because the union has suspended its warning strike action in August last year and subsequently issued reminders in December and March this year. And in Anambra State, Governor Charles Chukwuma Soludo has directed that Mesoma Joy Ejike may be handed over to the State Guidance Counselor for counseling following her admission of faking her Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination result. This was disclosed in a statement signed by the Public Relations Officer of the Anambra State Ministry of Education, Naemeka Egwonwu. He stated that in a letter to the principal of Anglican Girls Secondary School, Newi, Governor Soludo further directed that immediate commencement of psychological counseling and therapy sessions for Mesoma. The governor, in the letter signed by the Commissioner for Education, Ngozi Chuma Ude, also directed that Mesoma be handed over to a professor of clinical psychology. The directive is in line with one of the recommendations of the committee set up by the Anambra State government to investigate the matter following the parade of a fake result which elicited interest and generated controversy and misgivings to members of the public. Now, Lagos State pilgrims who participated in the just concluded 2023 Hajj exercise have left the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia on Monday, heading back home. The pilgrims who departed the King Abdulaziz International Airport in Jeddah aboard a Flynas airline at 11:30 a.m. Saudi Arabia time are expected to land safely at the Murtala Muhammad International Airport in Ikeja, Lagos at 3:30 p.m. local time. The flight, which was described as special flight by the Amirul Hajj, Anofiu Elegushi, has on board the elderly ones, those with medical challenges, among others. They are 185 male and 195 female pilgrims led by Abdul Wahid Shonibare, a member of the State Muslim Pilgrims Welfare Board representing the Ikeja division. Elegushi also admonished them to allow the exemplary conduct they exhibited while in the Holy Land to reflect in their dealings with others in every human endeavor when they return to Nigeria, so that people can find them worthy of emulation. He appealed to the pilgrims yet to be airlifted back to the country, as necessary plans have been put in place to ensure that everyone is airlifted back to Nigeria within the shortest period possible. You're watching Trust News Update on Trust TV. Still to come, we take a look at how substance abuse contributes to rise in petty crimes. We have details of this and many more coming up ahead after the break.
If you are just joining us, this is the news update on Trust TV. Now a recap of our top stories.
For me, I have my 8 years and I think I have enough.
A challenge to serve in line with the oath I have taken today.
Chairman of the Board of Directors of the Nigerian Deposit Insurance Corporation.
And an end to poverty.
Bauchi State residents are appealing to stakeholders in the oil sector to consider the plight of
Killing in Maraban Jama'a Okaru in Plateau State.
I'm confident that I have what it takes to turn Nigeria around.
Of FCT residents on the need to give Gen Z a proper orientation.
When a country organizes a credible election, both the government and the opposition will rest.
Welcome back and thank you very much for staying with us on Trust News Update. Here's a recap of our top stories at this hour. President Bola Tinubu emerges ECOWAS chairman, urges West African leaders to resist military takeovers. Troops of Operation Safe Haven recover locally made AK-47 rifles, ammunition in troubled communities in Mangu local government area. Now, a criminology lecturer at the University of Gombe State, Dr. Adamu Ahmad, says drug abuse is contributing to the rise of crime and criminality in Nigeria. The university lecturer says that illicit substances and they influence the decisions of criminals, especially bandits, to perpetrate their inhuman acts. Ibrahim Ismail reports from Gombe.
According to a 2018 data released by the National Bureau of Statistics (NBS), Nigeria recorded a total of 134,663 offenses in 2017. Dr. Adamu Ahmad said drug abuse is one of the factors for the rise in petty crime and other criminal tendencies rate in the country. This is even as the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency (NDLEA) said more than 14 million Nigerians are taking illicit substances.
The implication is that if you look at the areas where these people are engaging in, for instance, banditry, kidnapping, and the rest, particularly, for instance, northwestern part of the country, where they are experiencing high level of this security challenge, for instance, you realize that most of those who are engaging in this kind of activities are into drugs. But the consequence is that most of the rural areas in that area, you realize that youth that are engaging in this kind of banditry activities, for instance, they are doing well as against others. So it means those who don't have access will see their contemporaries flourishing, doing something and getting money and nothing is happening to them, and you also wanted to live a life that way.
Advising governments on the way forward to reduce crime rate in the country, the university then called on security operatives to strengthen the war against drug abuse by securing the borders.
We have to reformulate our policies, rejig our laws, and also try as much as possible to put into consideration, for instance, causes of the criminality. When we look at the causes to see what are the predisposing factors that make people to even engage in the criminality, looking at the availability of things that make it possible for them to do whatever they are going to do, that's one. Secondly, trying to look at the implications of their own actions. What is the consequence of what they are doing?
Although there are no statistics that give precise figures on the influence of drug abuse and rate of crime, criminals and terrorists are mostly fond of using illicit substances. Ibrahim Ismail, Trust TV News, Gombe.
In Bauchi State, commercial sex workers have said the promise made by the state government earlier last year to rehabilitate 575 of them through skill acquisition and empowerment has not yet been fulfilled. Adamu Imran reports that the state government had launched an empowerment program to address the social phenomenon. His report.
Tudungodan Danya within the metropolis is where the commercial sex workers usually operate. The area has been raided severally, but no one availed, and hence the promise to rehabilitate them to engage in more meaningful businesses. After 1.5 year promise to rebirth them from the ugly trade to prosperity, members of the commercial sex workers in the state are lamenting neglect by the authorities.
Skills acquisition, training and empowerment is a good thing for us, especially we the uneducated ones. They can engage us. Moving from one place to another is not our wish. Some of us used to go away and leave kids we delivered here. There is so much confusion here in this business. We need their help. They guarded us, took our names to be trained, but after that, we're yet to see anything after their promises. And we also have children. No schools. They express concern about their education. This is our great hope, but things are not easy, even here.
Ali Usman, a repentant male prostitute whose marriage was sponsored by the state government, speaks on his experience after rehabilitation. Honestly, all the promise made is not forthcoming. Nobody gave me a dime. After we got married, my wife and I are still together. I am taking good care of her. But nothing comes from the authority, and we are repentant now from the old business. I have a small shop selling provision here. Chairman Drama Group Association Tudungodan Danya, who are members of the skills empowerment process, speaks on the social ills of the illicit trade. We don't have the means 100% to help them all, but if the government can intervene, things will be better. Many vices will disappear. We marry them off. We counsel them because they told us stories. They don't have parents. Some are doing it only as means of survival. So government should stick to their promises to salvage them. It's important for government to assist us here. I usually take care of so many children. About 15 of them are under my care. I clothe them, feed them. I even married off some sex workers here who are willing to change. The state government, through the Sharia Commission, launched an empowerment program for commercial sex workers in February last year as a way of reducing social vices within the state capital. Adam Imam, Trust TV News, Bauchi.
Now to developments on the international scene. 2 boats, one carrying about 65 persons and the other between 50 and 60 persons on board, have been missing for 15 days since they left Senegal to try to reach Spain. A third boat left Senegal on June 27 with about 200 people aboard. Representatives of Walking Borders, an aid group, Helena Maleno, says the families of those on board have not heard from their relatives since they left. All 3 boats left Kafountine in the south of Senegal, which is about 1,700 kilometers from Tenerife, one of the Canary Islands. The Canary Islands off the coast of West Africa have become the main destination for migrants trying to reach Spain, with a much smaller number also seeking to cross the Mediterranean Sea to the Spanish mainland. Summer in the busiest period for all attempted crossings, the Atlantic migration route, one of the deadliest in the world, is typically used by migrants from sub-Saharan Africa. At least 559 people, including 22 children, died in 2022 in attempts to reach the Canary Islands, according to the data from the United Nations International Organization for Migration. And in sports, Nigeria wins the 2023 Africa Under-21 Nations Women's Volleyball Championship Zone 3 in Niamey, Niger Republic. Nigeria defeated Ghana 3-0 in the final on Sunday to clinch the title. The girls had earlier eased past local rivals Ghana in their first match of the tournament, winning by 3-0. They also continued their winning run in their second match against host Niger, winning 3-0, and the team also swept outside Benin Republic with a dominant display in their third match, claiming a 3-0 victory to secure a rematch with Ghana in the final. Speaking after the match, the team's coach Rakia Mohammed, thanked God for the victory. The team is expected to return to Nigeria later on Monday. Well, that's about it. You're up to date with the latest news stories at this hour. Feel free to follow us across our social media platforms for more content. My name is Abdullahi Ahmed. Thank you for your time and company.